Hello everybody, welcome back to Hex 1E. My name is Ralph. Last time we checked all the components to see if they worked and did what they should, and they worked and did what they should. Now we're gonna build the machine.
But before that, and as a favor, if you like what we do here, subscribe and comment on what you liked and didn't like about the video, so that we can improve our content. Any ideas or suggestions you may have are of course welcome too. Finally, we'd like more people to enjoy our videos. If you could spread the word by, for example, linking them, it would be greatly appreciated. Now, with that out of the way, let's get back to the video.
First, let's take a look at our water cooling components. For this one, we'll have one rat, another radiator, something for our GPU, a monoblock for the board, fittings, pump rat combo, liquid, cables, more cables, adapters, more adapters, finally rings for the fittings, and another liquid just in case. Last time I promised you that we're having a very special case, and it's time to open it and take a look. It's an O11 Dynamic, but this is a special one. It's the O11 Dynamic PCMR edition.
The mirror finish tempered glass O11 Dynamic PCMR edition was released in early 2020 in a limited edition batch of just 2,000 units, and I just knew I had to get my hands on it. The second I heard about its existence, I frantically scoured the web and managed to get my hands on one of the last units. And, as you might have guessed, this case serves as an inspiration of the build we're doing today. But before we have our fun with the case, we still have to assemble our water-cooled components like the GPU and the main board. I recently did a video about water-cooling GPUs, so I won't get into much detail about installation of the water block. Just remove the spring retention mechanism for the front side cooler. If it's a big one, it's fixed to other parts of the cart as well. Once done, carefully wiggle the cooler until it loosens. Put the cooler aside and mind that there are cables connecting the fans and possibly the RGB to the PCB of the cart. Now that the front of the cart is laid bare, remove the screws that hold on the back plate. Remove the PCI bracket if instructed. And that should be it for the disassembly. Now, let's prepare the cart for the water block installation. Start by removing any remaining thermal pads and clean the GPU die. Once you've done this, do it in reverse. Apply some fresh thermal paste and spread it over the GPU die. If the thermal pads aren't pre-cut, cut the thermal pads to size and take a look at your instruction manual on where to place them. Place a pad on the front side of the PCB first, install the water block and turn the GPU over. Screw in the water block, and if you were instructed to remove the PCI bracket during this assembly, install the replacement PCI bracket by screwing it in. And if you have a back plate, place the thermal pads where indicated in the manual. Screw on the back plate. And that's it. You're done.
Now that the GPU is done, let's do the main board. Nobody saw that.
This time, cooling the CPU is a whole different story. Instead of a water block for just the processor, we're using a monoblock, which cools the VRMs as well. This means that we have to remove the already present cooling assembly from the board. And depending on the monoblock and the board you've chosen, This can present itself as a more involved matter with AMD, and if it hasn't been done already, we start by removing the stock cooler assembly present on the board. And from this point on, the process of installing a CPU cooler differs from installing a monoblock. To install the monoblock, we flip the board over and remove the motherboard backplate if there is one. Look out for any thermal pads. Remove and place them on the backplate when reinstalling the backplate again. Also, mind your screws and where they were placed. For some unknown reason, motherboard makers like to use an assortment of screws of different widths and lengths to install their components on the board. And of course, you will have to put back every single screw you removed, exactly where you removed it. Then we set our sights on the cooling assembly for the VRM. Unscrew the necessary screws and carefully flip the board over so that the front is atop. Having done this, you should be able to remove any plastic coverings and copper or aluminum cooling slabs, or if you're lucky, fin stacks. From here on, the process is pretty similar to the GPU one. Place thermal pads where indicated in the manual. Cut to size if necessary. Put some thermal paste on the CPU and spread it over the whole heat spreader. Continue by placing the monoblock where it should go and try to align the holes from the monoblock to the holes on the motherboard. Carefully, without moving the monoblock around as it could damage components on the board, flip everything over again. Screw on the monoblock from the back, and we're just about done. The only steps remaining are to reinstall the plastic bits you removed and the backplate of the motherboard if there was one. As I said, it's a little bit more involved, but in exchange you'll have much cooler VRMs. And monoblocks offer a little bit more eye candy than just the regular CPU water blocks.
Now that we have our GPU and our main board, let's begin to assemble this beauty. Now the special part, our case. Okay.
Once I'm ready to assemble everything and have the case on my desk, the first thing I do is to remove all the panels, air filters and such. This is the only way I can have access to every part of the case. And when you're building a PC, especially one such as our system, you'll really be grateful for it. With the panels off, open and sort your case accessories. As we're working with a limited edition case, every unit gets its own custom plate displaying its unique number in the batch of only 2000 units.
We have number PCMR Special Edition number 884 of 2000.
Having planned out everything beforehand, it was just a matter of following the design. Larger sub-assemblies get built outside the case. By this I mean, assemble your water cooling components as far as possible and do the same with the main board. I prefer to assemble everything possible outside the case. Once that's done, it's finally time to populate our beautiful enclosure.
After finishing up the radiators and fans and so on, let's continue.
Yes, finally, the last part for today. Before we begin, we have a quick overview where everything belongs, and now it's time for some music.
Okay, our first test fitting went well. I still need to check something and fix a little mistake, which I won't be telling you, so nobody knows but me. And I will do the cable management and connect everything and so on and so forth, check everything, and that would be it for this episode. I hope you liked this episode, you find it at least a little bit interesting. I enjoyed it a lot. It looks great, the machine. So, my name is Ralph, and if you did like this episode, please leave a like. Yeah. And if you don't want to miss a third part or any other of our future content, consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell. My name is Ralph, and I hope to see you next time here at Hex 1E.